turmoil. Bitcoin loses 75k in a dramatic weekend crash as global markets continue to dump to the downside. What has just happened? What is going on in this market? I'm here to break down exactly what is going on. I woke up just now. Actually, I woke up a few hours ago, I woke up at 5 a.m., checked the Asian market, sent a few tweets and messages to our Telegram community, and then I just went back to sleep because this is absolute chaos. Here's an update on what is going on. We've got some more data. We've got the US market opening up shortly as well. Lots to digest and lots to understand right now. First and foremost, let's start with Bitcoin here. We know these fears are to do with the trade tariffs that Donald Trump has implemented, causing, a horrible Thursday and Friday in the US stock market. People are worried because stock market closes over the weekend about how are they going to open up now on a Monday. And that's where the fears are starting from. Now you can see Bitcoin with a nasty candlestick yesterday. It started later on the Sunday here, Dubai time. And we just crashed. We went down to as low yesterday as 77k, and then even more pain today, right? Opening up today at that 78 level, but now currently at 74.6. Now, in the great scheme of things, if you've been watching my content, you will know that this is not a surprise, right? Hopefully none of you are surprised. From 110, from technical analysis perspective, not even from the tariff perspective, I called out 72 to 74, as the level from the previous all-time high, which we broke out from, as an area I want to retest, right? I've been steadfast about that. I've said that consistently over time here. I want to see us come and retest that level, and we're pretty much there now, right? We're retesting that level. Now, did I think there would be a global trade war and this big tariff disaster? No, which is why we need to reevaluate where we're at right now, because this doesn't mean the bleeding's just going to stop just because we've hit this magical technical analysis line, right? And I think that's what's important to understand here. On this channel, you guys know I'll provide you technical analysis, I'll mix that in with the fundamentals, and add the macro on top. If you're not doing all three, your analysis is not accurate, right? There's some people who just do technical analysis. There's some people who just do fundamental analysis. There's people who just do macro. If you want to see where the market's going, you need to use all three tools. And that's what I'm sharing with you here on this channel. So we call that level out, and we know that this is an important level. But the wider market is in turmoil, right? When I woke up at 5 a.m., as I normally do, to check the Asian markets, I checked the Asian markets. I saw Hong Kong down 10%. I saw Taiwan down 10%. Singapore down 7.8%. We saw circuit breakers going off. Anybody who knows about market crashes will know about circuit breakers. Let me have a sip of coffee. I need this. They'll know about the circuit breakers. Those circuit breakers basically say the trading is so bad that the exchanges press this button which says, calm down, people. The dumps are too big. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to see it here in crypto, is decentralized. We cannot do that, right? There's no person sitting with a button saying, hey, stop the bleeding, right? This is not Robin Hood during the GameStop saga where we can just turn it off and halt people's trading. No, crypto will take the full brunt, right? Now, what's interesting is up until this point, over Thursday, Friday, and Saturday particularly, before the Sunday period, Bitcoin wasn't falling that much. It was holding up really, really strongly at 85, and people were making the argument that could this be the rotation into Bitcoin as a safety asset, etc., etc. And you guys know my stance on this, right? You guys know my stance on this, and nothing is suddenly going to change where Bitcoin is this huge, defensive narrative. No. Bitcoin is correlated to the market. Hold up. Are you tired of worrying about the security of your cryptocurrency transactions? In this crazy world that is crypto, protecting and preserving our digital assets is everything. And for that reason, I partner with NordVPN, the best VPN service for crypto traders. With NordVPN, you can be sure that your online transactions are completely secure and your identity is hidden from prying eyes. Their military-grade encryption technology makes sure that no one can access your data, even on public Wi-Fi networks, so you can trade with complete peace of mind anywhere, anytime. Guys, seriously, don't risk your hard-earned crypto and NFTs for the price of a coffee each month. They've also offered a free month. Oh, and they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. Guys, seriously, it's a small price to play for a rapid, safe VPN. Definitely check it out. Link is in the description. Ijaz.uk/NordVPN. And let's get back into this video. There's no way that if the wider global markets are falling, and worrying and panicking and risk rotating off, that Bitcoin will not take the secondary brunt of that force. There's no way right now, okay? So we need to understand that. The way Bitcoin goes up, quite simply, in my view, and you can feel free to jump in the comments and disagree with me, is if Jerome Powell comes out and starts loosening policy, right? That's the case. The economy has to be doing well. Risk has to be rotating on, money has to be flowing into the economy, and right now, as I tweeted earlier today, I'm going to show you the options. Either, 1, Trump backs down. 2, all other countries back down, right? China, UK, Australia, Mexico, Russia, all these other countries back down. Or 3, Powell delivers emergency rate cut. Else the bleeding continues. Which are you betting on? Well, I'm going to start off with the first one, and that is Trump. Trump is not backing down right now, guys. Trump has not decided to back down. Let's see if we can find the Trump video so I can play you what's going on with Trump.
Trade deficit. When you look at the market is smoking, when they look at the fact that we have $1 billion trade deficit, when you look at the trade deficit that we have with certain countries, way over $1 billion per country. But with China, it's $1 trillion. And we have to solve our trade deficit with China. We have $1 trillion trade deficit with China. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China. And unless we solve that problem, I'm not going to make a deal. Now, I'm willing to deal with China, but they have to solve their surplus. We have a tremendous deficit problem with China. They have a surplus of at least $1 trillion a year. I think it's like $1.1 trillion. And I want that solved. And no other president's taken it on. I had to take it on the last time, and then we had a rigged election. No other president's taken it on. And so China is, they say the market's smoking. China is right now taking a big hit because everyone knows we're right. They have to pay tariffs because otherwise we have a surplus, and they have a surplus with us that is not sustainable.
Mr. President.
And we're talking about $1 trillion. You know that, right? We're not going to lose $1 trillion for the privilege of buying pencils from China.
So there you have it. That's Trump's take. He's saying this is not going to go away quickly. And I'll even double down on that, guys, by sharing with you what we've heard from the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, which is also part of why markets are upset today, is the following. He said the following to NBC News, that more than 50 countries have approached the administration for negotiations, but cautioned the following. They've been bad actors for a long time. And it's not the kind of thing you can negotiate away in days or weeks, right? You can see these are certain words that are irresponsible for Treasury Secretary to say, particularly if you had no interest on dumping the markets. These people know this is what dumps the markets. Look at this from the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on CBS, that the tariffs would not be postponed. The tariffs are coming. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks, okay? So this is immediately ruling out the immediate fix scenario, which the market was using as its best case scenario. Now remember, markets are human, right? It's just you and I trading, pressing buttons, trade managers pressing buttons. We have emotions. We get stressed. We get emotional. We want hopium. We need a situation where we go, oh, is there emergency rate cut? Oh, is there a chance that if everybody comes and negotiates, you'll let go of this tariffs? But at the moment, we aren't getting that. I think that's what's upsetting a lot of people right now. We're getting the opposite. What we're getting from the market is this feeling that this is an emotional... Let me just pull up Bill Ackman's actually as well. Let's pull up Bill Ackman, what he said. You'll find this interesting as well. Because we're getting an emotional approach, right? We're looking at this and we're saying, hang on, is this not just a really aggressive approach to tariffs? Because a lot of people who voted for Trump weren't too concerned initially, right? They're like, yeah, tariffs, right? We need to, it needs to be fair. And I think that's what everybody's like, okay, US is going to do something around their tariffs. They're going to try and make it fair. It'll probably be targeted at a couple of countries who are taking advantage of the US. And he started off like that with Canada and Mexico. But then this broad, sweeping tariffs with arbitrary numbers, which we broke down in our previous videos, that is what's causing this crash, guys. And it's important to understand that there is a difference here, right? There's a difference between doing smart, targeted campaign on tariffs versus widespread, just making up numbers like we went through in the previous videos, targeting everybody, attacking everybody, allowing them to create alliances with each other, causing problems, right? And don't think that this couldn't get big, right? This could become really big. And I don't want to just shout out random words like World War III, but these are the kinds of things that create cold wars. These are the kind of things that rearrange the global map in terms of trade alliances, in terms of partnerships, where, suddenly you're not as close to China as you previously thought. China will get closer to Russia, and all these other permutations from countries. What happens to NATO, and, as you weaken your trade relations as well. Big problems on the map, right? But Trump is insisting. He says that we're the biggest consumer in the world, we're putting our foot down, and we're not going to back down, right? And let's see how that plays out. But for now, markets are throwing up, and they'll continue to throw up until something stops the bleeding. But what's important is, like JD Vance says, have you thanked the president even once? Have you thanked Trump for the market? You should thank him. Anyway, Bill Ackman, a big famous hedge fund manager, said the following: the country is 100% behind President on fixing a global system of tariffs. President Trump has elevated the tariff issue to the most important geopolitical issue in the world, and he's gotten everyone's attention. So far, so good. But then, guys, if he goes on down, he starts to now change the narrative and say, look, business is a confidence game. The president is losing the confidence of business leaders around the globe. The consequences for our country and the millions of our citizens who have supported the president, in particular low-income consumers who are already under a huge amount of economic stress, are going to be severely negative. This is not what we voted for. The president has an opportunity on Monday to call a timeout and the time to execute on fixing an unfair system. In other words, what he's saying is take a ceasefire. He's asking Trump for a ceasefire, to take it easy, to say, look, we're going to pause it. These are not going to go into force on April the 9th, which is on Wednesday, by the way. We'll come onto the economic calendar. And just let cooler heads prevail, like he says at the bottom of his tweet there. And look, should we take seriously what a hedge fund manager says here and there? Take it with a pinch of salt, right? This guy will have his own trades. He'll have his own positions. He'll be upset that certain things are happening, just like everybody else. We all kind of, inherently speak our own book, as they say, in terms of what our own investments are. That being said, when we come back onto the market, let's just kind of remind ourselves of the situation we're in, which is that this is a pullback coming back into previous all-time high. From the structure of the chart, it's not that bad. Where it does get bad, which I'm going to share with you, is this EMA ribbon. And this is where I'm just a little bit worried. So us coming down to test this is fine. My concern is if we spend more than the week at these levels, because now we're losing the EMA ribbon, okay? We've fallen officially below our weekly EMA ribbon, and a weekly candlestick close below here means we lose the weekly trend. And this is the kind of thing that can make you lose a trend, right? A long, drawn-out trade battle changes the trend, not just, intraday and panic, but can change it for multi-months. And that's the problem here. If Trump is insistent, if there is no progress between now and this candle close, which is Sunday night next week, 6 days and 17 hours from now, we close below our weekly EMA ribbon. And that changes the trend now for a multiple period where we could be going sideways for a while and we could be going lower. So we'll need to evaluate that. Now, the best scenario we have right now is we see progress this week. And the good news about what's going on right now is if there is an immediate resolution, which, like I just showed you, the rhetoric from the politicians is that there isn't a quick scenario to this. But if there is, let's just think positively for a second, we recover quickly, guys, right? This weekly candle could wick back into the EMA ribbon, back to the upside, and we could bounce from here and go on a big move back up, right? This is a nice structure if we don't lose our weekly EMA ribbon. If we can do this, that's fantastic. But that relies on things getting resolved. That relies on countries negotiating and not getting the response from Trump and his team that, oh no, but you've been bad actors for a long time. It's not the kind of things we can fix in days and weeks. You don't want that. You want them to sit down and say, thank you for coming to the table. Let's address what we need. Here's a sensible percentage, right? Not 50%, 40%, 30% arbitrarily. Here's a sensible percentage which closes the 2 to 3% gap which we have with your country. That's what a sensible conversation would look like. If we get those kind of things, we can recover quickly, because this is not an inbuilt issue with crypto. This is not an inbuilt issue with an otherwise healthy economy, right? Otherwise healthy economy. It's just this trade issue. And if we can clear it, we moon. If we get some printing from Jerome Powell, we also moon. I just think that's really, really unlikely. I covered that off on Friday as well. I just don't see Jerome Powell coming out and giving an emergency rate cut. Now, if we refresh on the Fed rate monitor tool, this will keep changing, right? You can see how this has just jumped up now with the panic we're seeing in the markets. 50% of the market is saying we're definitely going to get a cut in 4 weeks' time. The real question is not what happens on May the 7th at the next FOMC meeting, which is a month from now, but does he come in earlier? Will he step in with an emergency rate cut? Because that's going to be what Trump wants. We saw Trump's tweet at the end of last week. He wants Jerome Powell to bail him out. He wants him to do his dirty work. Jerome Powell's not going to do that until he sees labor figures, until he sees inflation, until he sees certain things come in the line. He's not going to intervene. And tariffs are not going to help inflation. We get a CPI reading on Wednesday. Okay, we're going to get a new CPI reading. Let me just show you the calendar here. On Wednesday. And it's a funny week this week because we start off, with obviously the tariff fears, which are going to be a consistent throughout this week. You've got your 3-month and your 6-month bond auctions, which are going to be interesting to see, which countries are buying bonds and turning up on bonds. Because remember, if countries aren't bidding on bonds, Trump's going to use that to whack them over the head with. Right? So there's a lot of geopolitics going on with the finance as well. You then have a few Fed officials speaking this week on Wednesday. You get the FOMC minutes along with Thursday giving us the CPI reading. So very important week coming up. You also get consumer sentiment on Friday as well, which is going to be interesting to see around the kind of recession fears and how markets are feeling. But I just don't see enough for Jerome Powell to come in and kind of really give us that emergency rate cut. And from a political perspective, should he be doing Trump's dirty work? I don't think it's sensible to mask what's going on in the economy with an arbitrary rate cut. But that being said, it would pump our bags. I just don't know how sustainably, right? Because the reality is Fed officials only really step in when the proverbial has hit the fan, and therefore markets and investors will be worried about how bad is it that Jerome Powell had to come out and do an emergency rate cut. So we're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place until smarter minds prevail, right? Until calmer minds prevail, as Bill Ackman says. Ooh, a lot to take in, guys. So 3 weeks ago, we fell 4% on Bitcoin. Last week, we fell close to 5%. This week, we're falling so far 4% here. We've seen worse. And I remind you that these are the moments. Let me just refresh the fear and greed index. We're down at 23 in extreme fear. These are the moments where typically, if you buy, you tend to do well. Now, does that mean you go and catch a falling knife? No, particularly not in this kind of scenario where the probability that there's more pain ahead is greater in my mind than the probability we just get that V-shaped recovery, because I don't see it on the agenda that Trump just suddenly, after what I just played you, comes out and says, oh, we're going to fix this tomorrow, we're going to do a pause and everything's going to be okay. I think it looks like it's going to be longer and drawn out, and that's exactly why we're getting this response from the markets. US market opening up in a couple of hours. No doubt I'll be back with another update once we find out how they respond. But guys, I give you a warning right now. It's not looking good, bruvs. Yeah, bruvs, if you look at the pre-market, you look at the NASDAQ futures, down 5.7%. If you look at the S&P, down another 5%. If you look at the Dow Jones, down another 4.2%. It is not looking good. These are not good numbers, and it's going to be difficult. So strap in. If you got cash on the sidelines, you're in a really strong position because you're going to get some amazing opportunities. I mean, Ethereum down at 1,400, Bitcoin below 75,000. You've got, many altcoins getting wrecked if you're looking to top up on some of your favorite altcoins or bring your cost basis down. Now, the person in the position of strength is those who have cash, right? Who's able to look at this market and go, hey, I didn't have to chase at 110 on Bitcoin. I'm buying at a 30% pullback with potentially a little bit more to come. Maybe you get a 35% pullback. Maybe you get a 33% pullback. These are the opportunities if you've got a little bit of cash on the sidelines, not chasing the green candles at the top, but instead buying at the peak of panic when Trump comes out and delivers global tariffs. Cool, guys. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling. Has this market shaken you? Are you panicking? Are you pretty calm about it? Again, another reminder of why you don't want to be in margin. You don't want to be getting liquidated on leverage trades. Beautiful time just to be in spot, like I always talk about, so you can sit, you can look at the market, you can buy the dip if you want to buy the dip. Otherwise, just don't sell. These time passes. Bitcoin has always continued to prove people wrong. Be patient, sit on your bag, go for a walk if you're not buying the dip, and that's about it. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.